Anybody who tells you that losing weight is easy, it's just about moving more, eating less, it's easy to keep it off, it's just about changing your lifestyle, well, I don't think they're 100% right, and they've probably never had to do it themselves. Welcome back, you guys. My name is Sarah. I am known as Carnivore Yogi over on Instagram. Thank you so much for coming back to my YouTube channel and clicking on this video. I really wanted to make this video for you guys because we're in January. It's the beginning of the year. A lot of people really want to lose weight right now. And you know, if you want to lose weight, the last thing you want to do is gain it back so that you have to lose it again. My personal experience is that I have lost 100 pounds 3 times. And the last time was 13 years ago. There are specific things that I have done in the last 13 years that I believe, and I'm gonna put some resources of scientific studies and data underneath this video so that you can go and check this stuff out for yourself. It is verifiable. Things that I did differently over the last 13 years that enabled my body and my nervous system to not gain all of that weight back. Before I get into that, my typical disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, nutritionist, or expert. I am just sharing my personal experience with you guys. But I really just want to help. I want to help anybody who is out there who's struggling. And most people have gained weight, lost weight, gained weight, lost weight. It's not just a one-time thing for most people that I meet, unless you do some serious things in your life, which I'm going to talk about. So at the end of this video, I will talk about how being on a zero carb diet, eating a high fat diet, and those things support me in this process. But I've only been high fat, eliminating carbohydrates for 2 years. And I had 11 years of keeping the weight off, the majority of the weight off, before these last 2 years. So let's talk about that. Again, at the end of the video, I'll talk about the food stuff. But let's talk about the other stuff, because here's the thing. You can have the perfect diet, you can have the willpower, the motivation, go, 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 do, 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 that may get you to your goal. It may not. We'll talk about why not and what I did differently to lose the weight initially the last 100 pounds ago. But the thing is, if you're just running on willpower and habit and pushing through, and you don't have the necessary support in your life, and I'll talk about what those supports look like for you. It might look different for you than it does for me, but it's all gonna go along the same thread. But if you don't do that other work, and it's probably not what you're thinking, then this gain weight cycle, lose weight cycle is just gonna keep showing up for you in your life. So, let's just talk about the last time I lost that 100 pounds, because losing 100 pounds period is not easy. What I did, and it's totally different than what I'm doing now, was Weight Watchers. Now, I don't think my metabolic issues were what they were. I was a lot younger, right? So I was able to go to do Weight Watchers and lose this 100 pounds. But the other things, and I'm gonna talk about this and how these things play into the ability for us to lose weight and keep it off, is that I had Tribe. I went to Weight Watchers meetings every single week, and I had a girlfriend. She was also trying to lose weight. She did lose weight. We were both actually successful in losing the weight, and we went to meetings together every single week, and we hung out and we talked, and we were a support system to each other. So there's this thing called mirror neurons. And so having a tribe, people that you're surrounding yourself with who have the same goal that you do, who have the same mindset that you do, is going to be very important in this process. That you need tribe. That's why a lot of people probably are watching my videos on YouTube or following me on Instagram, and some of the other great people in this space. They are trying to surround themselves with tribe and activate those mirror neurons. I'll put an article about mirror neurons in the information section below this video. So that's 1. 2, and this was kind of an accident. It wasn't something I intended to say, this is what's gonna help me to keep my weight off. I know the science behind it. This is what's gonna help me. No, this happened. I started practicing yoga, and I would go 5 to 7 days a week because I had a kind of a tragic situation happened at home with my family, which I've talked about in other videos, and I'm not going to jump into so much in this one, but it sent me to have to do something to self-soothe. And I knew that the food was a thing that was going to work for me to self-soothe, but I really did not want to go back to the food. So I started doing yoga, and I had been very repelled by yoga for many years. I hated it. I just didn't want anything to do with it. But I was desperate at that point. And so going to the class, and it's really the end of the class where you're more in that meditative state, the wakeful, it's like you're sleeping, but you're awake kind of state. Doing that on a very regular basis is what helps to rewire your nervous system. So a lot of this, the mirror neurons, and then that, regular activity that is a wakeful rest activity, doing that on a regular basis is what will help to rewire your nervous system. Because if you continue to have the same nervous system where you're activated by the same things, and you've wired that food as a comfort very, very hard within your nervous system, part of that unwiring of that in your nervous system and in your body is these things, the mirror neurons, but also I think is the wakeful rest activity. Now, I'm going to link below this video a podcast by Dr. Andrew Huberman, who is a neuroscientist at Stanford. Now, if you want to nerd out and watch the whole thing, I highly recommend. It is absolutely fascinating about the nervous system and about our ability to actually create a lasting change in our life. And weight loss is something, most of us coming to it want it to be a lasting change. And what he says, and you go to the 45-minute mark, if you want to hear this actual scientific explanation complete with scientific studies, is that for this nervous system to rewire, we need that 20 minutes a day, restful waking activity. So you're not actually sleeping, but you are resting and you're awake, and it's some sort of a meditative activity. So for me, I had to do yoga for about 7 or 8 years before I had the tolerance to meditate. Now I also meditate every day for at least 20 minutes and usually twice a day, which is not a requirement for this work. But I'm a strong believer in having some sort of practice. Now, if those don't sound like they're gonna work for you, that's okay too. You can listen to guided meditations. Dr. Huberman is a huge fan of yoga nidra, N-I-D-R-A. And there's also the field of somatic experiencing, which I'm studying right now in hopes of helping people, because really what I want to do with this knowledge that I have found about myself and about others is to, number one, create a community, which I already have a community going on board right now in my January group, where I want people to feel safe and supported, and to gently give them this information about how the nervous system works, how we trap stress, and how trapped stress and a dysfunctional nervous system, a dysregulated nervous system, can lead to weight loss resistance, weight gain, autoimmune issues, and all kinds of other problems. So it's really important to me going forward to provide this information to people, because like I said, I don't want people to go back to gaining weight, losing weight, all of that. So let's talk a little bit about how I think food plays into this. Now, like I mentioned in the very beginning of this video, the first 11 years, I did not do any sort of special diets except the 2-year stint I had with a plant-based diet. When I became a yoga teacher, I wanted to be in tribe. I wanted to be like the other members of my tribe. Quite honestly, I think that's why I lasted as long with veganism as I did, was because I had tribe around me, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. So you have to learn in this process how to listen to your own body. I was very blessed and lucky that one of my yoga teachers said to me, "You're very sick, you gotta have some animal foods." And so I had to break down that whole thing. So this can work for us in a good way and a bad way. We still need that ability to listen to our own bodies. But essentially, that diet wasn't good for me. I still was able to keep the weight off, obviously. But I found the carnivore diet 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago now. And essentially, if you watch some of my other videos, I'm also someone who has struggled with alcohol, which it's all the same. Now I'm learning about the nervous system and trauma and addiction. You can just take one and replace it with the other. Take food, add in alcohol. Take out alcohol, add in cigarettes or shopping. I've talked about this a lot in other videos as well, that it's not just like a one thing. So yeah, I've had to do some recovery work. Again, more mirror neurons, the 12 steps, which I'm, still trying to somewhat stay anonymous, but I want to be honest with you guys. I couldn't quit drinking on my own. I did have to have help. So in that process, I've also had to look at my food, because I was starting to treat food exactly the same way as I was treating the alcohol. And the alcohol gave me a little break from my struggles with the food, because even though I was able to keep the weight off and I had the yoga and I had all this stuff, I still struggled. You still have to deal with those internal demons in this process of rewiring your nervous system. And one little thing about the 12 steps of recovery, step 11 is prayer and meditation. So I think that in the 30s, when they started this program, they were on to something there as well. But going back to the food, I was really struggling. The food had become just as difficult as the alcohol had become. I was really abusing sugar. I was really abusing, I would even do it with fruit, because a lot of people will say fruit's not a bad food, and I don't think any foods are bad. By the way, it's how your body processes those foods. And so when I was eating a lot of the sugar and a lot of the fruits even, I would just overeat it to the point of feeling sick. Like I was still numbing out with the food. So going to a high fat diet, I'm actually satiated, I'm actually nourished. I still do have to work on this tendency to overeat, tendency to numb myself out as a coping mechanism and want to undereat. I'm still having to do this work. So it's not like, the yellow brick road and you just float on down the yellow brick road and everything's great and you're off in Oz and everything's perfect, right? Oz was kind of screwed up though, wasn't it? Anyway, what I'm trying to say is there's not a magic pill, there's not a solution. This does take creating a lifestyle, this does take a long time. I do believe that a high fat diet that contains adequate protein and adequate nutrients, that may not look like the carnivore or keto diet for you. It may look like something entirely different, but I do believe eliminating those more addictive foods, and what's addicting to you and what's addicting to me are going to be different. But that is a very supportive thing in this process and has helped me quite a bit neurologically, physically, but it's all part of this journey. So a lot of people look at me and say, Sarah, how do you stay so dedicated and so strict? And it's because I've been doing a lot of this work for many, many years. It's been building for a lot of years. And I don't want to discourage you and say, well, I don't have a lot of years. You have right now, you have this time. You can start a practice. You can join my newsletter to find out when I'm going to be opening up another group. So if you want to come be part of my tribe and have these mirror neurons firing and learn more about your nervous system, I'd love to have you. But there are things you can do, and you might as well get started, right? Because what else are you going to do? So I know this is a little bit different. I hope it was very helpful to you guys, but I just wanted to explain that, when you have lost 100 pounds 3 times and you don't want to gain it back, you have to change the wiring of your nervous system. You have to change your foundation. You have to change your entire life if you don't want to gain that back, if you don't want to go back into those addictive behaviors, because they will sneak in through the side door, through the back door, and it's not fun. So I'm happy to talk with you guys in the comments. If you have any questions, please drop them below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.